I was not initially going to do a sit-down review for East of Wall, but obviously I changed my mind. Okay, this past Monday, the 4th of August, East of Wall was AMC's Screen Unseen. I had never heard of this movie. I have found out quite a bit about it since then, which has, I think, had a lot to do with why I changed my mind about whether I wanted to do a sit-down review of this film as opposed to just a quick take audio review. This was apparently a Sundance 2025 selection. Something that makes this film really different is the way that it was done. The movie feels more like a docu-drama than an actual work of fiction, and that's largely because it kind of is. The basic setup for the story is it's about this woman named Tabitha. She lives in South Dakota. She has this horse ranch. It's like, gosh, I can't remember how many acres, more than 2,000 maybe. And she is selling these horses at auctions, her local auction, but she's not getting a lot of money for it. She is financially burdened because her husband has passed away and she has taken in like this gaggle of kids. It's like she's got all these different kids living with her. Not all of them are her own children. I'm pretty sure at least 2 of them were, but a lot of the others, I might be wrong about that, but I know for sure 2 of them were. But a lot of the others were just kids that she took in because their parents weren't doing the best job taking care of them. And Tabitha has this heart of gold, basically. I mean, she will give the shirt off her back to help you. And at the same time, you can tell that the stress is getting to her. And she has a bit of a contentious relationship with her daughter for reasons that are explored throughout the film. A lot of it has to do with the death of her husband, who is her daughter's stepfather's, not the bio dad of her kid, her oldest kid anyway. He might have been the father of the youngest kid. Basically, this story, it's about an hour and a half long, maybe a little bit more. I believe the official runtime is 97 minutes, and it takes about a good 30 minutes before the hook of the story is revealed. As far as, not necessarily hook, that might be the wrong wording to use, before the turning point of the story, or like what it is that makes this story become what has so far just been slice of life, to revealing what is the lever in the story that's going to open things up into another direction. And that is eventually revealed. And once that is revealed, then you have like an hour until it's done, approximately. Basically, what happens is there's a rich and he comes to the area. He goes to the auction. He buys one of her horses for a higher amount than she had been getting. And he makes her this offer that is very timely because of the struggles that she's going through. And so from that point on, the rest of the movie is the interaction between him and the people that live there, Tabitha and her gaggle of young kids or young people, because most of them are teens. She has a very young son, like maybe 3, and her mother lives there too. Eventually, Tabitha starts to figure out what she needs to do. Basically, it's just, and I won't make you think that there's anything super dark and nefarious going on. I will admit that when the rich came into town and started making this offer and then was going to take Tabitha's daughter to go do shows to auction off the horses, because what Tabitha's group would do is when they would auction off the horses, they would have the girls ride them around this ring and show the different things that the horses could or would let the riders do, like stand on their back, do tricks, stuff like that. I was extremely nervous that something really, really bad was going to happen with this rancher and her young daughter. Was not anything like that. So just, there's nothing super dark or ominous about this film. It's just this drama about this family that starts off largely feeling slice of lifey, which is pretty much what it was. The backstory of this is that the director was just driving around the country, different states. She gets to South Dakota and someone tells her, if you want to find a story or a good story, go east of Wall, find Tabitha Zamiga or whatever her name is. And that's what the director did. She spent 3 years living with these people, got to know them, and then created this story. This movie is inspired by Tabitha's life. And I started early on to suspect, feels like these people are playing themselves, because when it revealed what the movie was, I looked it up to see what the runtime was, and I saw names of people who acted in it, who ended up being the same names that they were called in the movie. And I'm like, are these people playing themselves? And then you notice that their acting doesn't feel, I don't want to say polished or professional, but their acting doesn't feel like acting. Now, that's obviously the sign of a good actor, but in this case, it feels like someone in a documentary. That's kind of what this story felt like, because like I said, that's kind of what it is. Now, I'm sure that some stuff in here was fictionalized, but I know that some stuff was not. Her living situation and also the death of her husband. There is a scene in here where she's gathered around like this campfire, this fire out in the barn or whatever, and with a bunch of other women in the area, including her mom. And they're kind of all sort of telling these heart-wrenching stories about their terrible past. And Tabitha tells the story of what happened to her husband. And I found out later that the first time she told it was to the director. And then the director, when she was making this film, asked her to do it again. So Tabitha had to go through this heartbreak again, filming the scene, and it's so authentic. Well, it's authentic because it's real, but that's what really grabs you. And even though the people in here, there were some professional actors. There was a professional actor playing her mother and then one playing but the authenticity of their performance is what grabs you. And now, a lot of times you can tell when people are just bad actors. That really didn't feel like the case here. You could kind of pick up that maybe this particular line didn't flow quite as well as it could have if they were more polished. But that doesn't matter, because as a whole, this entire package felt so genuine. It's a non-issue if they can't properly deliver a line perfectly every single time. So it was just very interesting. And when I left the movie theater, it was on my mind a lot. It's now been this, as of the filming of this is Wednesday, couple days, it's still on my mind. And I'm feeling a little torn because it's so authentic, so genuine. The performance is so natural. And even though these people were amateur actors, there were some surprisingly heartfelt moments that happened in this movie. I also liked the cinematography. I felt like the visuals were pretty solid. It captured the landscape and the day-to-day life well. You felt like you were in it. The place that she lives, not very well kept up. It's like she lives in like this double wide trailer, and there's like old seats sitting outside on the porch, like vehicle seats, and then like there's trash stuff all over the place. Like, it is not kept up very well because she's just busy trying to live, so she just doesn't take the time to clean or whatever. So it feels dirty and grimy and gritty, but in all the right ways, if that makes sense. I also like that it was emotionally grounded. These moments that hit hard throughout the course of this story, how real they felt, not scripted. And I did see in an interview, the daughter, Portia, I heard that some, if not all or most of her lines weren't even scripted, which is super impressive. I mean, I left the theater wanting to know more and more about it, and I have been watching videos about it, and I suggest you guys check it out too. It's just so interesting. This was the director's first full-length movie, and despite the flaws, which I will get into in a second, I felt like it was a commendable effort for her first time. My initial rating for this was going to be a bit on the low side before I fully kind of melted into the story, and absorbed everything and figured out what was going on, and that these were people playing their part, kind of like Sing Sing, okay? That's what I kept thinking about Sing Sing, except Sing Sing was more polished, maybe because the director just had a little bit more experience. If you watch the two, you will probably pick up on a very similar sort of vibe, but Sing Sing has a more traditional, typical type of look to it, feel to it, and the story flow is, I think, a little bit better in Sing Sing. The issues that I had with it were things that were going to hold it back for me more than it does now that I've just kind of chewed on it a little bit, thought about it a lot, and found out more about it, and consequently have more appreciation for the story. There's some pacing issues. It's a 97-minute long movie, and it takes at least 30 minutes to get to the pivot in the story. It's very slice of lifey. I'm not super huge on slice of life stories, so I was starting to feel really bored. For the amount of story that's being told, it genuinely feels like 97 minutes. It's a bit too long because of that late story trigger, just sorry. What sets in motion the potential conflict in the story takes a bit too long before it kicks in. The structure also felt a bit meandering. Not only does it lean into that slice of life type of narrative, more so than, like, let's say a 3-act narrative, though there is a 3-act narrative in there, pretty loosely woven. You can find it, just doesn't feel as definitive or as defined as most movies. But there were also times where some scenes felt a bit disjointed. Some shots or segments felt thrown in there more for mood, but didn't really help with the flow. Things like something has happened in one scene, and then there's just a very quick scene that happens, like it's only a few seconds long. She's walking in the room to look at her son, and then there's a very quick shot to another scene where she's lying in the bed. Just like it felt a little bit like the director was wanting to put these moments in here to kind of let you just continue to soak in the story and the environment and the characters and everything, but I felt like we already had a pretty good handle on those sorts of things. And so that type of very quick scenery or shots that was thrown in, it didn't work so well for me. There were also some problems with the sound design. It was inconsistent sometimes from scene to scene. Some dialogue in certain moments was a bit hard to hear. That's not really a huge issue. The other stuff is probably a little bit more of an issue than things like sound design. There is a kind of a climaxy sort of thing that happens at the end. I mean, it's not kind of, it definitely is. It just feels a little bit more, in my notes, it was a soft climax. Like it didn't feel anticlimactic, but it also was not the sort of story, because this is a character drama, it's not the sort of story that really just gets your heart pumping and, your adrenaline going, because it's not that type of film. But I think it was maybe the fact that the film felt a little longer than it needed to be that kind of almost diluted the feel of the climax. Maybe you'll know what I mean if you get around to watching it. Maybe you won't. But in general, to me, it's a flawed film, but it has a lot of sincerity and a pretty clear perspective on the story that it's telling about these people. It also went from being a movie that I was going to low rate to something that will very likely end up on my honorable mentions, at least. It did something right if it made me start to think about things a little bit more than just my initial knee-jerk reaction. And for a first-time effort for this director and for the non-actors involved, it's very commendable. And it's not going to be something that works for everyone, especially viewers who are looking for a more traditional plot, more traditional standard type of movie-making storytelling, but it's effective in that it leaves a mark on you. I mean, I'm still thinking about it, and I probably will continue to be thinking about it and thinking about Tabitha and wondering how she's doing these days. So, I think you're going to remember the people more than the movie itself because of how effective they were at reaching you on an emotional level as an audience member. In general, it might not have completely stuck the landing, but it succeeded in capturing something that was very real and making me think a lot more about it than I probably would have otherwise. And that's kind of rare. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say for now about East of Wall. If you guys end up taking a chance on it, checking it out, curious to hear your thoughts. Okay, that's it for now. Bye.